Yeah, welcome everyone, Sanjuchi here. So welcome back to the channel. And of course, by the time this video goes up, I'm pretty sure most of you have already read the latest chapter of Dragon Ball Super, chapter 61, which was entitled Vegeta Reborn. So I'm going to spin this review into a discussion as well, which, I mean, most reviews kind of are in a sense, because you kind of give your thoughts on it. Well, welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope you all had a great day whenever you're listening to this. But let's get right into it. So chapter 61, honestly, straight and to the point, I love the chapter. I actually really love the chapter. Having Vegeta getting the spotlight against a main villain is something a lot of persons within the Dragon Ball community have wanted for the longest period in time. And having it as an alternative for things being set up for Goku to come in and save the day, definitely a plus. But what I will say is that this chapter does play upon the whole arc Vegeta has been having since he came here to Earth, the transition from villain to antagonist to anti-hero to hero. It continues that trend. Granted, I know his arc has been pretty much played up since the end of the Buu saga. He's basically come full circle. But I think this chapter, especially through the dialogue that we see Piccolo try to, put out towards Goku in this chapter, I think in some shape or form, we have made another transition slightly from Vegeta being how he was at the end of the Buu saga to this point now where he has, ever since the middle or like first two chapters of this arc, we've seen Vegeta trying to redeem himself from his past transgressions, essentially, like actively, in comparison to how he was at the end of the Buu saga, where he tried to redeem himself and he, the the iconic Vegeta sacrifice moment. But with this arc, he's actively trying to do it, and I think that's actually refreshing to see. So there was definitely that. And I think even the technique he learned from the Yardrats was a perfect fit for what's needed in Dragon Ball Super on a whole right now, as well as for Vegeta's character. Now, in terms of the technique for Spirit Fission, we learned that it's a technique that tears apart things that are combined via fusion and absorption. So I think that adds on to the long list of special techniques that are in Dragon Ball. But at this point, I'm glad it's a technique that Vegeta focused on and not a transformation, because Dragon Ball Super for the most part has introduced a bunch of transformations, and I'm pretty sure everybody's pretty transformation fatigued at this point. So this whole arc in itself, Vegeta aside, having Goku and Vegeta use unorthodox methods to gain strength in this whole arc on a whole, I think has been pretty refreshing, and this chapter definitely continues that. I have no problem with it. Now, in terms of the technique and how it relates to his character, Vegeta said best in the chapter, he's never really believed, or he's never been a strong supporter of the idea of like fusion or fighting with stuff that doesn't really relate to your own strength. He only seeks a fair fight. And I think that says wonders, are a lot of things for his character. It reinforces characterization and decisions and attitudes and responses that Vegeta has had to stuff like fusion and absorption for the longest time. No, I think that speaks wonders, honestly, if I'm being honest. And honestly, that's why I think this technique is even a perfect fit for him. I mean, if he goes up against someone that's trying to absorb, use, or, they fuse, he can actually tear them apart. So now it kind of makes me wonder how interesting this technique would be for Vegeta going up against somebody like, say, Cell or Buu, like we had it back in the day. It would make for some interesting fights going into the future of Dragon Ball, if you ask me. And I think that's one thing that Dragon Ball needs to kind of start stemming away from the who has the bigger power level. And it's something I've spoken about before, where I feel like the whole combat system of Dragon Ball needs to evolve. And not that Dragon Ball doesn't have a host of like weird techniques. I mean, we have Ginyu's body change, and we have Golo's time stomp, we have Hit's time skip, and a host of other techniques. But at the end of the day, I feel like writing wise, it always came back down to who had the bigger power level. And I feel that's what we got with the Goku portion of the Goku versus Moro fight. So I'm glad we got to see this with Vegeta. It definitely shaked things up. And even though Moro started out stronger than Vegeta, it just goes to show you that if technique, you can actually beat somebody stronger than you. And I love that they emphasize that with this chapter. I mean, stuff like the choreography and the art for this chapter was definitely good as well. Definitely loved it. It's that's nice. It's just like Vegeta. The chapter title really encapsulates what Vegeta was for this chapter. Like there was something about the art that just made Vegeta feel fresh, more refined in terms of how he approached the battle. I mean, he had that technique, yes, but it was just refreshing to see him on panel and going up against Moro and taking the spotlight from Goku here in this chapter. What I also loved about the chapter as well is that even though the highlight is on Vegeta, we have the comparison and the contrast between him and Goku. Goku is a character I know persons will say is not the most complex character in the world, but what I loved about this chapter is that the comparison between Vegeta and Goku, it kind of highlights that Vegeta, yes, he's made a lot of changes, had a lot of character development and progression, and it does highlight, it does acknowledge in universe that Goku hasn't changed, but it does highlight that Goku doesn't need to change at the same time. He affects the world around him. So even though he isn't the quote-unquote best character like I would give it to Vegeta, Goku in himself is still a very interesting character in how he affects the world around him. So I think that's what the chapter was really getting at with the comparison between Goku and Vegeta right there, which I find to be very good acknowledgement of the worth of Goku's character even while highlighting Vegeta. So that was definitely good for me as well, if I'm being honest. Now, the stakes rise even further as Moro manages to enact his backup plan by basically eating 7-3, and he's restored to even much more power than he was before when he just started fighting Goku and Vegeta. So now we have a problem on our hands as Moro, even though I guess eating 7-3 doesn't really isn't really considered as absorption or fusion, even though it is like a fusion form. So I'm wondering if Vegeta's spirit fission technique will even be able to like work or be of use in this situation. Because the thing is now with 7-3, Moro is as strong as he was before. Well, specifically stronger as they said in the chapter via Goku. But now he has 7-3's ability to actually copy techniques. So it's going to be interesting to see how things are going to progress from here in terms of stakes. Now, as I said, most of you have already read the chapter, so I'm going to just kind of build on the review with more discussion and some ideas I'm thinking here. Now, we still have some factors that could play a part into the final battle here. I mean, we could still have fusion between Goku and Vegeta, but I think the way that the arc is playing out, we might not get fusion, even though I might do another video discussing the possibility of that. But just the way the arc has been structured, I know the whole theme of how Goku and Vegeta have gone about things, I don't feel like we will get a Vegeta or a Gogeta. But I think like characters like Majin Buu and Mira still will play a factor going forward in actually defeating Moro. The whole idea is for the characters to defeat the villain using unorthodox methods or alternatives to how they usually approach their main villains, to say the least. And it has actually done wonders for the arc. If I'm being honest, it's refreshing and I love it. But I think we really need, if not now, or I think this would be the perfect time to factor in Majin Buu into the defeat of Moro. Reason being, I think it's a perfect time to start tying things up to the end of Z and why the characters should be interested in Oob. I know this is kind of like going like way left field or way out of the scope of this chapter specifically, but just hear me out. At the end of the day, at the end of Z, even if they're going to change it to some degree or some fashion, the fact still remains, the series does end with Goku flying off with Oob, but you have to admit, based on the ridiculous increase or scale of power that the characters are dealing with or even possess right now, Kid Buu, Oob is nothing. So I think it would be great to factor in Majin Buu in the defeat of Moro, have the Grand Supreme Kai give some inspiration or mention something in relation to his god power, you know, going to Kid Buu and then reincarnating into Oob, and use it as a means to start a new arc that could set the pace for things for the new generation after Goku flies off with Oob, or at least it gives more context, or retconned context to why Goku would still be interested in Oob at this point. That's what I'll say about that. I think we need to start tying things up. Having a refreshing arc is one thing, but we need to start, tying arcs together is what I'm saying, and ensure that Dragon Ball can last for the next 5 to 10 years, because at this point it's really corporate, and with or without Toriyama, Toei and stakeholders involved will still try to push Dragon Ball in some shape or form. So if they're going to do it, I say do it good. So that's all I'll say about that one. Of course, leave a comment and let me know what you think about my little point right there. But anyway, that's all I have for this one. Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 61 has been breath of fresh air. Definitely loved it. Solid chapter, and it successfully raised the stakes, and in typical Dragon Ball fashion, made the villain stronger, and made a U-turn on the efforts of the the main characters. So this isn't over yet. This could easily go for another like 3 chapters at least, so let's see how it ends up. But anyway, be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, leave a like. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate the support in the just growing the channel overall. So let's develop the community a bit more. Share this video out if you loved it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.